today I'm going to be going over all of the general education courses I've taken so far in college. What I'm going to be doing is rating each class on an S through D tier based on how difficult it was and how time consuming it was. So obviously S is going to be the easiest and D is going to be the hardest. I should have put this at the beginning of my video, but basically a lot of these classes can vary because it could be in person or online that you guys might be taking, different professors that are more lenient with you, or they might be a little more harsh on the grading or whatever. But this is based on my own experience. So the first section I want to cover is my oral communication requirement, and I fulfilled that with the advocacy and argument class. It's basically a public speaking course mixed with oral debates. The class had 3 main oral presentations, with the final one being a debate, and then some miscellaneous assignments here and there. But those were pretty easy. The professor I had was super helpful. He gave a bunch of good tips on how to improve my public speaking, and I feel way more confident now whenever I'm speaking to a group of people. The oral presentations we would have were pretty simple, and he would also give us tips at the end of each presentation. There were 2 classes to choose from. It was either this one or a normal public speaking course, but I just decided to go with this one because it looked a little more interesting. But from what I've heard, everyone said this one is pretty much way better than the other one, because you don't have to talk a lot. Like, you don't have to do that many presentations compared to the other class. Public speaking can still be nerve-wracking for some people, even myself. Like, at the beginning of any presentation I have, I get super tense and it's really nerve-wracking, but after that I get pretty comfortable. So I'm going to be putting this at an A. In this next section, I chose an English class focused on rhetoric and critical thinking. It covered argumentation, research, and it had frequent essays writing across different formats. It was a very easy class with minimal work, and my professor was actually really nice and helpful. Like, she would explain everything down to the detail, nothing left out of the instructions, and it was all pretty straightforward. The essays were doable but a little long at times, nothing crazy. It was all online, so I didn't have to go anywhere, which was a plus. The only thing this class kind of pissed me off about was if you had 3 absences in the semester, you'd automatically get dropped from the course. In college, you'll have a lot of professors that just won't care if you show up or not, and attendance isn't required. And then you'll have some, like a handful, that kind of care if you come. But for this class, to track your attendance, and if you can't even miss 3 times. Like, the most you can miss is 3, and you're dropped. Like, I think that's just bullshit. But I'd rank this one at a B. It would have been higher if that rule wasn't there, but it's whatever. Alright, so we're going to move on to the science section, and for me to fulfill the physical science requirement, I picked an earthquake class. So it was about introduction to earthquakes, their causes and effects, with the emphasis on California. I'm not gonna lie, I picked this one thinking it was going to be an easy A, but I was wrong, bro. It started off light, but as the semester went on, the work got harder. Like, it started pulling in equations and math and all this bullshit. I was like, bro, why are we doing all these calculations for an elective about earthquakes? Like, the last 5 weeks were really, really bad. The homework took way too long to do every week, and I ended up getting a B. I would dread doing anything for that class, and it was just so gay. That's why I'll put this one at a C tier. And this next one was life science, which was basically standard biology. The next science class I took was standard biology. It talked about fundamental concepts and living systems, and basically how science was in this role of modern society. It was pretty straightforward. My professor was good at explaining the material, and the exams were all pretty easy. And I'll be putting this one in the A tier. I'm pretty sure everyone has to take this class during college, and it's statistics, and it covered sample and population data, probability, and all that stuff. It could be tricky at first depending on who you have, but my professor was really fucking cool. Like, he was the best professor to take for statistics. He would go into extreme detail and broke everything down to where anyone could understand it. And the homework and exams were all pretty easy, and the final was a little tricky just because of how much material there was to memorize, but it was pretty manageable. And I'll put this one in A tier. The reason it's not in S tier is because even though it was kind of easy, it would get a little troubling at times, especially like farther along during the course. And the difficulty for this class can vary on how your professor teaches or what kind of professor you have. So that's why I'm not going to be putting it at the S tier. Still in the science section, I picked food safety, which talked about the physical, biological hazards and food safety laws, stuff like that. But basically what happens to the food, what's in it, and what makes it unsafe. From what I remember, this class was pretty straightforward, and since it was asynchronous, which means it's like all online, I could do it at my own pace. It took probably about an hour a week to get through all my homework and any assignments I had during that class. But it was a super easy class. I'd put it at S tier. Now the next section is visual and performing arts, and the class I picked was art history. It was kind of like a comprehensive history section about Western art and how it was formed in the Renaissance. But this class was so boring. It was in person, so attendance was mandatory, and the professor would just lecture the entire period about different art pieces and the history of all of them. Like the topics themselves weren't boring, it was just the way they were delivered, especially since it was like an older lady. It was like I would just tune out like 5 minutes into the lecture. I'd mostly just be on my laptop watching something or on YouTube. And the work itself was just discussions, a few easy essays, and a presentation about an art piece of our choice from a museum we visited. It was very easy. It was just, oh my god, it was so fucking boring. Like, it was basically like a free period, if I'm being honest. Overall, very boring. Putting it at A tier. The next section covered civilization, so I picked an agricultural class. It was basically about the genesis and evolution of agriculture and kind of like the foundation through the history of the civilization. At least that's what it says right here in the description, because I don't remember anything from this class, I'm not gonna lie. I don't remember much of the material at this point, but it was similar to the food safety class. Pretty easy, straightforward stuff, mostly at my own pace, asynchronous, and it was history based. But I flew through that class and I got an A, so I'll just put it S tier. And then the next one, also a history class. It was basically world civilizations from 1500 to the present. But basically it was about cultural study of global civilizations and how their interactions impacted human civilization. A lot of these history classes are going to be the same as each other, so like they're kind of like the same vibe. Like as the previous courses, but this one was a little bit more demanding because the essays required more pages and took a little longer to write, but still pretty straightforward through and pretty easy to get through. I got an A in the class and I put this at S tier because it was really fucking easy. It was just a little long at times. And this is another civilization class. I took Latin American civilization. Damn, bro, they make you take so many of these classes. It's actually ridiculous. Like, I'm not even done going through all the history classes, and I've done over like more than 5 my entire time at college right now. That's fucking crazy. Anyways, this was a Latin American civilization, so it was covering pre-conquest societies and through the present. So like through literature, art, music, stuff like that, I guess. This was probably the easiest out of like all 3 civilization classes I took. Every week I just had to read an article, do a quiz on it, write a short response to like a prompt in like the discussion board or whatever, and like the occasional essays, but those are really easy to get through. I got an A in that class, so I'll put this one at an S tier. Alright, now we're going to move into the social science section, which is the first one in that section was US history, and it was kind of like from the earliest settlements to the end of like 1870s. Just lots and lots of articles about important events in US history, and it was asynchronous, so again, I did it at my own pace. Essay heavy, it was a little lengthy, but the prompts were easy, and there was a lot of reading to it. I got an A in that class, and I would rank that one at a S tier as well. Now this next one was Intro to American Government, so this covered the US and California constitutions, philosophies and political institutions, all that stuff. Again, lots of reading. The exams were really easy and it was asynchronous. Like all of these history classes, I took them all online, so they're all going to be similarly like not difficult, but the challenge level of it is really really low. So it was not much to it, and I got an A in the class, so I'll put this one at an S tier as well. All right, so the last class in this section it fulfilled the social science requirement. And I think this is the easiest class I've ever taken because it was about how technology influences and affects our lives and how it's changed the world. So, but basically all you had to do was a quiz each week and an essay every 5 weeks. And bro, the professor was actually goated. The correct answer in every quiz was always the option A. So like, you know how it's A, B, C, or D? It was always A. So every time it's like, dude, this class, automatic S tier, bro. It was so fucking like, shout out to the professor, bro. It was so easy. I had more time to focus on my other classes. S tier. Next, I had to fulfill the lifelong learning section. So the class I chose was personal money management. It covered budgeting, housing decisions, insurance, credit, taxes, saving, investments, retirement, all of that. This class was actually super helpful, and the material in this class is like you're going to use it in real life, so I actually paid attention through it. A lot of material in this class helps you prepare yourself for the real world, and everything you learn in it is basically intertwined with the decisions you have to make in your life later on. So like anything that has to do with budgeting, finances, like money, any of that stuff, I can think back on what I learned in this class and apply it to myself. I remember this class being a little lecture heavy, and there was a big project towards the end. Some of the quizzes were a little tricky, but I got a B in the class. I want to put this one at an S tier, but it would get difficult from time to time, but I'll put it in an A tier. This is the only GE where I actually felt like I was learning something useful. I'm not gonna lie. Like something I would use to apply to the outside world. because the other material and the history classes, I don't like remember anything from those classes. I'm not gonna lie. I just took them just to take them. And last but not least, I gotta fulfill the ethnic studies section, which I just picked ethnic studies and how it covered the histories of Native Americans, African Americans, Asian Americans, all the communities in the US with the focus on food and agriculture. I actually found this one pretty interesting. It talked a lot about food disparity and related topics, kind of how food is distributed through like grocery stores, and how some of the grocery store locations kind of affect certain communities where they can be a little bit farther apart from each other. But anyways, it was a pretty easy class overall, and I put this one at S tier. So that's every general education class I've taken so far. Maybe if you're starting college, this can help you to decide what classes you want to take, or maybe it didn't, and it kind of just gave you an idea of what to expect in the classes. But if you like these kind of videos, let me know. I'm down to make a lot more. Or if you want me to talk about something else, just let me know in the comments. But yeah, that's all. Later.